Pokemon Discord version. Arc 7. Beneath the Shade. Siren City Chronicles. Part 2. Aiden Monarch, Blythe Lightsworn POV.
Cross poison, Golbat!
Said Aiden as his newly evolved Golbat quickly dashed towards Blythe's newly evolved Shelgon.
Too slow, Aiden! Shelgon, protect!
Blythe said as his Shelgon created an impenetrable barrier to protect itself from Golbat's cross poison. Aiden and Blythe had been exhausted from training the whole day and battling countless wild Pokemon to level up their own. As they faced off, they would hold nothing back as they battled each other competitively to sharpen each other's fighting skills.
Golbat, use Fling!
Aiden's Golbat used the move Fling in order to throw its held item at its target. In this case, the Golbat's held item was one of Aiden's gunpowder explosive. Boom! A minor explosion pops off as the explosive makes contact with Shelgon.
Now, Golbat, use Wing Attack!
Aiden says as Golbat slices the air with its wings in an attempt to finish off Shelgon and win the battle. The wing attack cleared the smoke after the explosion, only to reveal Shelgon holding up an even more potent barrier using Blythe's Secret of Nature ability as its own energies, effectively protecting itself against Golbat's assault.
Wow, Blythe, your Shelgon's defenses are off the charts,
said Aiden to Blythe.
I know, right? Now, Shelgon, use Dragon Pulse!
Blythe says as Shelgon releases a monstrous wave of dragonic energies at Golbat.
Golbat, dodge it!
Aiden says as his Golbat swiftly gets out of the way of the attack just in time.
Now, cross poison!
Aiden says to Golbat as it launches its attack and finally makes contact with Shelgon. Shelgon yelled out in pain as it fainted from the attack.
Damn! Well, Aiden, you win again. It looks like your Golbat was just too quick for my Shelgon. Good fight, bud.
Blythe says as he heals his Shelgon and returns it to its Pokeball.
Great job, Golbat! Return! Thanks, Blythe. Your Shelgon was not an easy opponent. Its defenses are insane. Imagine how amazing it'll be once it evolves again. Nonetheless, that was an amazing battle, man. Thanks for training with me.
Aiden says as he returns Golbat to its Pokeball.
We did great today, Aiden. Now we should rest a bit and eat,
Blythe says as he begins to prepare a meal for them.
That's such a great idea. I could use some food after all that tough training we did today. Hopefully Anzu returns a little later and we can rest a bit. I think we may have overdone it.
Aiden says to Blythe as he sits down in front of the campfire.
Yeah, I wonder how much intel Anzu was able to get for us. Siren City looks gigantic from here. That's literally the biggest city I've ever seen,
Blythe says to Aiden as they look over the horizon at the giant fortress that made up Siren City. Suddenly, in the distance, the boys could hear the cries of a young Pokemon of some kind. It sounded like the Pokemon was in distress, which caused the boys to immediately jump up onto their feet, despite being so exhausted.
Blythe, did you hear that? It sounds like something needs our help,
Aiden says to Blythe.
Yeah, and that Pokemon sounded really, really young and small. We need to hurry. It sounds like it's dying. Let's go, Aiden,
Blythe says as they take off towards the sound. Again they heard the sounds of the crying Pokemon, only this time it was closer. They ran across the burnt volcanic terrain past many charred trees as ash kicked up from behind the ground with every hasty step. Eventually they came across a group of about 6 different Seviper, the black Viper Pokemon, surrounding 2 tiny Fire-type Pokemon on all sides. The Seviper continuously strikes at the 2 tiny wounded Pokemon, while one of them desperately tries to defend the other one against the horde of Seviper.
Blythe, it's a Torchic. It looks like it's dying. We have to help it. That Charmander is trying to protect it, but if we don't do something, they'll both die,
Aiden says to Blythe as they witness the desperate Charmander try its hardest to fight off the Seviper using Scratch and Ember back to back, doing minimal to no damage each time. The Torchic lays there bruised and hyperventilating in a pool of blood. The Charmander sees Blythe and Aiden and yells out to them in attempts to get them to help. It's clear that Charmander cared for this Torchic a great deal, enough to stick by its side and fight for it to the death. Both Torchic and Charmander were poisoned and had been for quite some time. If Blythe and Aiden didn't intervene soon, the two young Pokemon would surely perish from the poison and would be eaten whole by the Survivor.
Go Shelgon! Use rollout!
Blythe shouts as his Shelgon quickly appears from its Pokeball and begins rolling viciously towards the Survivor.
Sylveon, you too! Back up Shelgon and use Helping Hand!
Aiden summons Sylveon as it aids Shelgon in defeating the 6 Survivor one by one, killing them instantly. They quickly return their Pokemon to their Pokeballs and turn their attention to the Torchic and Charmander. The Charmander had also collapsed during the battle. Aiden pulls out 2 potions from his bag and tries to heal the dying Pokemon desperately.
Aiden, regular potions aren't gonna cut it. They've been poisoned. Here, try this.
Blythe says as he reaches into his bag and pulls out 2 antidotes. Aiden uses them and immediately begins to see a difference in the Pokemon's coloration and breathing patterns. Charmander opens its eyes for a single moment and reaches its arms over to the Torchic, who is now fast asleep but seems to be breathing steadily and has stopped losing blood. Charmander smiles and falls asleep as well, for it now knows that Torchic is going to be okay and decides to rest.
There you go, buddies. Rest now. Everything's gonna be just fine.
Aiden says as he picks up the tiny sleeping Pokemon and cradles them in his arms as him and Blythe walk back to their campsite.
So, Aiden, what are we gonna do with these little guys?
Blythe asks as Aiden lays the 2 Pokemon down by the fire and uses his overshirt to cover them both.
Well, we can't just leave them here. It's way too dangerous. I refuse to allow these 2 to fend for themselves. They've already had it hard enough. I wonder where their families are. Like, what happened to these guys where they ended up on their own at such a young age?
Aiden says to Blythe.
I know, right? They don't look barely older than a couple of weeks each. These Pokemon are way too young to be on their own. It would be super cruel to leave them here on their own.
Blythe says to Aiden.
I have an idea, Blythe. Let's bring them with us. It's perfect. Yeah, these Pokemon are young, but with the right training and guidance, I believe we could turn these little guys into 2 of the best Pokemon partners the world has ever seen. Don't you think so, Blythe?
Aiden says with excitement in his voice. Blythe looks down and smiles.
Okay, Aiden, I agree. On one condition. I get the first pick. And I pick Charmander as my partner.
Blythe says to Aiden.
Alright, I'm okay with that. I was gonna pick Torchic anyway.
Aiden says to Blythe as they stare happily at their brand new Pokemon partners as they sleep by the fire comfortably.
Then it's settled then. Aiden, we got Charmander and Torchic.
Blythe says proudly.
Yeah, we should probably give them their own Pokeballs and let them rest inside so they can be safe throughout the night.
Aiden says as he and Blythe both pull out an empty Pokeball and each return their respective Pokemon to their capsules. The boys sit by the fire and slowly begin to realize how exhausted they are and begin to lay down and fall asleep, for they had a pretty eventful day. What with training and evolving their Pokemon to having rescued 2 brand new Pokemon partners, it looks like the boys had fulfilled their goals for the day and went even beyond their own expectation.
Blythe, are you still up?
Aiden says as he stares at the stars into the vast night sky.
Yeah, what's up, Aiden?
Blythe replies. Aiden ponders in his mind about the world, comparing it to the situation they had just encountered with Torchic and Charmander.
Do you ever feel like the world's darkness outweighs its light? Like earlier when we rescued those 2. I feel like we could relate to them. Kind of like our situation is exactly like theirs. 2 of us versus 6 of them. And not only do they have us outnumbered, but outgunned too. I don't know. I guess witnessing nature like that just weighed really heavily on my mind.
Aiden says to Blythe. Blythe sits up abruptly. Wow, that's super deep, man. You're wrong, though. We might be outnumbered, but we'll never be outgunned. Don't you see, Aiden? Of course the world's dark outweighs its light, but us sticking together and coming through for each other is what helps us prevail over the darkness.
Look what happened today. If we hadn't showed up, those 2 adorable little guys would have died and been snake food. We saved them, Aiden. No matter what, our Pokemon partners will be there for us, and we will do the same for them, as well as each other. As long as we stick together, no darkness will overcome our light, Aiden. Blythe says as Aiden listens with a wide-eyed expression. Aiden lays back down. Thanks, Blythe. I don't know what I'd do without you, he said to Blythe. Now, let's get some sleep, Aiden. You're getting all mushy on me again, you pansy. Just kidding with you, man. Let's get some rest tonight, okay? We earned it for sure.
Blythe says to Aiden as he lays down again. The boys slowly fade into sleep and drift off into their own respective dreams as the night carries on. Tomorrow will be a big day, for they both fully expect Anzu to return to them with intel on Siren City and ways that they could possibly enter and slip by unnoticed by the onslaught of guards and rocket elites. They didn't know exactly who they could recruit from Siren City to support their cause, but they knew for sure that with the right charisma and know-how, they could convince someone of an alignment and hopefully gain resources and connections based on who they align themselves with. At this point, this was all speculation. However, with Anzu's help, they knew their mission would be more than probable. They both look forward to the journey to Siren City, but they know it won't be easy. Hopefully Anzu comes back with some useful information for them, or at the very least a game plan.